What up, leaders? Welcome back to my channel. This is William Street in Kitty. We're at the corner of the St. John Road and William Street, Kitty. That's the St. John Road looking north, looking south. This is the St. John Road looking north. And this is what is happening at the intersection of the St. John Road and William Street in Kitty. So William Street is the second to last street in Kitty. The next street north there is Public Road, Kitty. But somebody's actually turning this corner property into a business, as you can see. And this is William Street in 2023. Now William Street, Kitty, like I said in the previous video on David Street, is one of the older sections of the city, one of the older divisions, neighborhoods in the city, because it is one of the original locations where the middle class in Georgetown was allowed to live, to own property, and therefore it's some of the oldest property in the city in terms of architecture, but have undergone waves of renovation. For example, this is a renovation from the 1980s and 1990s based on the architecture. This is probably renovation mid-80s, mid-1980s renovation of a house that was probably built in the 1960s, but this is what it looked like in the 1960s when they were built. Right, renovated to concrete, moving from wood to concrete as the time goes by. But this is William Street in Kitty, and he said Kitty is bounded on the west side by St. John Road and on the east side by Lamaha Street. So this street extends in Kitty from St. John Road to Lamaha Street, which you're going to encounter in a minute. But here is what it looks like in 2023 and what it looks like before. You can see remnants of what it looked like, say, in the 1960s. This is the colonial architecture with the jalousies and the wooden windows built for ventilation. And then that is what it started, renovation started looking like in the 1980s, 1990s. Right, they've actually kept to the original footprint and the original architecture, but changed it from wood to concrete. So this is what happened. This is what renovation looked like in the 1980s. This is, of course, another renovation going on here in 2023, but it's basically keeping the form of the building, right, the form factor and the footprint, but changing the wood into much more durable steel and concrete, reinforced concrete material. But this is the older neighborhood in the city that existed in, from the beginning, and that's why it's so interesting, because it's kind of like excavating, right? It's like an anthropology study of how the city is changing and how it has changed and will change in the future, because of course this is now prime property for all of the money that is pumping into Georgetown from the oil and gas industry, and a lot of these properties are going to be bought up and probably torn down and rebuilt, right, because of the demand for property and the amount of money that's flowing into the country now to be spent on just building new industries. As we approach Queen Street in Kitty, we're on William Street in Kitty. This is William Street in Kitty. If you want to see David Street, we looked at that in the previous video. William Street in Kitty is north of David Street. This is that new building that's going up with the steel frame, which I covered in a previous video on Queen Street. You want to see that video, go take a look at the history and you'll see Queen Street south. That's Queen Street north. And that's a new building that's going up. And we're still on William Street in Kitty. Now William Street, heavily residential, but as you can see, commercial properties moving in. But this is what residential buildings looked like in the 1960s, and as you can see, some of them have been renovated in the years since. The ones that have gone partially concrete, for example, on the ground floor, and this one is partially concrete, wood on the top floor. Ground floor concrete, top floor wood. This was something that was done this in the 1980s, right? Renovation was done in waves and stages, and this is that new commercial building that's going up here. Apparently it's been under construction for a while. They had stopped, but now I think they're going to complete it as the demand for commercial space increases. Yes, like I said, the first wave of renovation saw a lot of these wooden buildings become concrete on the ground floor, and then of course the second wave saw full concrete buildings. The third wave in the 1990s to 2000s, that's the early to mid 2000s, 2010, say, what started happening is people started coming back from North America, from Canada, from the US, and building homes that looked like the stuff, that the buildings that they lived in North America. It's Kitty Methodist Church over here. Georgetown is of course a city of churches. We have more churches per capita. G. Burnham Nursery School is in the back there. We have more churches per capita than any city in the Caribbean. In Georgetown, it's just a city of churches, and I'm going to explain that in a future video. Right, why churches are so important and popular, not only churches but mosques and temples. Important and pivotal to the way the Guyanese society is organized. But this is William Street in Kitty, and this is in fact what the new renovations in the 1990s, 2000s looked like. The houses became fully concrete, right? So eventually in the 1990s, those wooden houses became fully concrete. This one was probably built in 2000s. As you can see, there's much more of a South American South architecture. Over here, it's another church, Revealed Word Christian Center. It's over here. That's Manor House, which seems to be a name for another kind of church. Alright, so this is William Street in Kitty. William Street, one of the oldest residential neighborhoods, but now also becoming quite commercial because of, the expanding commercial enterprises in Georgetown, demand for property and the demand and the capital flowing into the country because of the oil and gas industry. So this is like trickle-down economics. And this is Lamaha Street. Right, this is the boundary, or is it? Not so sure. No, not so sure. Let's see which street it is. No, this isn't Lamaha Street, because Lamaha Street runs all the way down beside Kitty. But yes, of course you can see on the other side that is Bryanville. You can see the seawall. You can see all the way out to the seawall. We're still in Kitty, and we're going to head over to David Street, which we've seen before. David Street, Kitty, but we've just completed our walk along William Street. That's the end of William Street in Kitty. That seems to be car rental place, dental place at the end, and on this side looks like we're back in Bryanville. But that's it, guys. That's William Street in Kitty. We're heading back towards David Street, and if you know the name of the street, give me a comment in the description or below the description. Back on David Street in Kitty. If you want to see more content like this, guys, share this video with friends and family around the world. Click like and subscribe, and let people know what's happening here in Georgetown, Guyana. Later!